So you've been meaning to improve your ability to communicate, and this is exactly how you do it. Now, I'm going to preface that there is a degree of something known as personal magnetism, which is essentially a magnetic force that is around all living humans, which throughout the past couple centuries has been gradually evolving higher and higher. People like Eamon Gudzi, Andrew Tate, all these have high degrees of personal magnetism, which is a skill you can cultivate to attract people towards you. Now that we have that out of the way, I have a lot of notes here that we're just going to go through, points that are just very easy to implement, and you can start understanding communications and understanding how to get your point across so people respect you. So that way more people respect you, and whenever you leave a conversation, they walk away feeling better about themselves and you feel good about yourself as well. So without further ado, stop speaking to impress is the first part. Whenever you talk to someone, you don't want to seem like you're trying to impress them. I'm already confident in myself. I already know who I am. I already have my principle and my attributes that I want in life. And so I don't need to impress you. Because the more you try to impress someone, the more it comes off as like, I'm already confident in myself, so I don't need to impress you. And maybe it's like you want them to try to impress you. So you just don't want to have this degree without self-respect. So go into the conversation without trying to impress them. Think as if they already are impressed by you being there. The second point is be authentic. So authenticity is on the highest chart, which I'll put a picture right here really quick, is the highest chart of vibrations that you can operate under. So there's love, and then authenticity is above it. So whenever you are the character that you've crafted or that God has aligned yourself with. So if I started playing the character of a jackass, that would not be in alignment with who I am. And I would know it, and other people would feel it. But the character that I chose is like a warrior or a sage. These align more with who I am as a person, which in turn is felt by everyone around me. So it has a degree of confidence, but it also has a degree of say what's on your mind at the time without feeling shame or any kind of guilt about what you're saying. If you want to say someone is a retard, or maybe someone calls you a retard, which leads us into the third point. Have boundaries for yourself. If someone is walking on you, even if it's not to prove it to yourself, I don't care if people call me whatever. Maybe you're kinky, right? You want to do it so that way that person stops doing it and they'll have more respect for you. If someone is openly disrespecting you, they will just continue to do it because they see that you don't do anything about it. And that we live in a cruel world. That's okay though. You can negate it with politeness and respect for yourself. Be like, hey, don't talk to me like that. And they're like, oh, what are you, mad now? It's like, no, just don't talk to me like that. It is so simple, and it makes people uncomfortable. But people respect you more and listen more to what you have to say if you properly do that. You don't have to be like, don't talk to me like that or I'm going to beat your ass. That doesn't help the situation. Or maybe someone calls you a retard, which leads us into the third point. Have boundaries for yourself. If someone is walking on you, even if it's not to prove it to yourself, oh, I don't care if people call me whatever. Maybe you're kinky, right? You want to do it so that way that person stops doing it and they'll have more respect for you. If someone is openly disrespecting you, they will just continue to do it because they see that you don't do anything about it. And that we live in a cruel world. That's okay though. You can negate it with politeness and respect for yourself. Be like, hey, don't talk to me like that. And they're like, oh, what are you, mad now? It's like, no, just don't talk to me like that. It is so simple, and it makes people uncomfortable. But people respect you more and listen more to what you have to say if you properly do that. You don't have to be like, don't talk to me like that or I'm going to beat your ass. That doesn't help the situation. And if you create boundaries around yourself, this leads into the next point, which is the Machiavellian fear or be loved. If you could have both, but it's better to be feared than loved. Especially in the cruelness of this world, you can manage both, and it's very easy. But you still want, to a degree, people to respect you, and with respect comes an inherent of fear. Just like we respect the Lord, we fear the Lord, right? And so we need to be able to create this aura of ourselves of like, our words have weight, even if we're faking it, which that is a part of being authentic. If you say that, like, you want to speak with your chest out, speak boldly, say stuff that is risky because that is what gets you where you want to go. And if you're not willing to do that, then people can tell. They can tell you're not a bold character, you don't have confidence. Now, this leads into the next 2 points. First is respect yourself. We've already been covering all this valuable knowledge in a sense that is surrounded about the self. But this 7th point is to remove ego from it. Do it with politeness, be humble, have mercy on your enemies. I live by this because you don't want to always have, some people need to be made an example of, and that's alright. But for the most part in your life, you want to show overwhelming confidence, humbleness, and acuteness of circumstance. Become tactful. And as you can tell, a part of communications is not just saying or speaking with your hands, the tonality. All that stuff plays a factor in the body language. But it is more important to be the character that is saying the words. That's why if a homeless person comes up to you and starts talking about Israel, you're like, what the fuck are you talking about, crackhead? Like, get away from me, right? But if Trump starts talking about Israel, it's like, you start raising some eyebrows because it has more credibility to the word. And so we all have to play these characters. And maybe you don't want the whole authority of Trump as a president. But what you do want is to have credibility to your name. And that requires a lot of repetitions, a lot of skill development over a long period of time. So you just have to do so much volume, it would be unreasonable for you not to succeed. Which leads us into the next point, which is be open. You want to be like an open book. People can read you, and you have to be okay with that. Be okay with being seen and being in the middle of the... If you're clearly trying to not offend someone, then people can tell, and they'll be, oh, you're a people pleaser. But if you're willing to, like, be open and be, like, say what's on your mind at that time, you're not only conveying confidence, authenticity, and respect for what you stand for and what you are, but also people are going to be willing to be more open with you. If I start talking about my daily activities, the person that I'm talking to is going to start conveying the same energy. So you want people to be raised to your high energy. People always talk about, oh, you are the average of your 5 friends. And maybe if you're hanging around a whole bunch of people that smoke weed, then you're going to be the 5th. Well, I say, if you're the guy who's successful, raise your friends up. Bring them back up with you. Educate them. Talk to them. Let's explore. Let's make jokes about as well. It's about this character that you're creating, which you need to have intention in order to do. Which God created us with the potent power of potential to express his creativity. So I'm going to speak in a retard for a second. He gave us the ability to do anything. And that's a part of his will, is him allowing us to create these characters that are good. And we have to craft them. You ask any Christian who's actually in the faith and like fighting every day against the flesh, and they will tell you it takes so much willpower, so much resilience, and so much character development to get to where you want to go. And that's with anything in life. So if you're not willing to suffer that, then you're going to suffer regardless, because then you won't have that thing. So make your decision right now and change. The next point is to be non-judgmental. If someone doesn't want to follow your sect of beliefs, don't judge them for that. We're all entitled to that right. I remember reading in a book by Robert Greene about one of the most seductive men, and whether you believe in that kind of behavior, whatever you want to call it, is relevant. The most seductive men who have slept with the most women, if you put them in a room with a woman, they'd be uncomfortable for the first 5 minutes. And then they'd realize how non-judgmental this man was, which would eventually lead to them being slept with. So this whole aura of, look, I accept you for who you are, and I accept me for who I am. And I'm not going to make a judgment because it's not my place to. It's God's place to, and be okay with that. So the next point I have written here is, don't be afraid to say what's on your mind completely. Don't be afraid to go up to a girl and talk to her. Like, just start a conversation. Because a big part of communications is... The biggest part of communications is just going up and doing it. If you go into it with the right mentality and be like, yeah, I'm open for a conversation, people feel that energy and they'll reciprocate it. So go into it with an open attitude. And here's another part of that. Don't be afraid to compliment people. If you notice something and you remember something like that they told you previously in another conversation, which is another part, you have to remember this information and relay it back. If you be like, oh, I wanted to compliment you on doing such a great job. I remember you telling me about this and I was thinking about it, and yeah, I really have admiration for that. It's inspiring. It makes me want to go do that. Now we're both walking away from that feeling better about ourselves. So in whole, a big part of communications is going out there, doing the reps so many times that it's unreasonable for you not to succeed. If you want to be a great... So go do it, do so many reps, and understand that you will improve with time. Remember people's names, and look, there's so much more to this, and there's so many good resources out there. So please, just go do that. Make the conscious decision to do it right now, that you will improve your communications, because it all comes down to a choice. And that is one of the deepest esoteric secrets of this world, is that we all have the choice, and so many people do not exercise that choice. This is Evan, or Johnny Rock, signing out. Much love, y'all. Keep conquering and stay relentless.